On October 13, the Global Women's Summit opened in Beijing. Xi Jinping appeared in a rare joint shot with Peng Liyuan, yet he became the focus of heated discussion across the internet. Puffy face, ashen complexion, slow speech, described as forcing himself to finish the script. Outside observers suspect this was actually a proof-of-life show. On the very same day, information leaked from within the system. Kai Chi, director of the General Office of the CCP Central Committee, may be replaced, with Jiangxi Party Secretary Yin Hong set to take over. With the center of power loosening and personnel tremors ahead of the fourth plenum, the air in Zongnanhai is colder than the autumn wind. Don't miss the next drop, subscribe and enable the bell. Beijing, another big move. On October 13, Xi Jinping finally appeared. He attended the Global Women's Summit with his wife Peng Liyuan, appearing together on camera. It was his first public appearance in 2 months. But as soon as the cameras rolled, the internet was shocked: swollen face, gray complexion, halting delivery. He looked like someone propping himself up on stage. At the same time, rumors exploded: Xi Jinping, his third stroke. The story goes he was hospitalized in early October, and this appearance was just a proof-of-life show. Even stranger, on that same day, word spread that Kai Chi would be removed. A change of the director of the General Office means the power core is loosening. Internally they are changing the heart, externally they are putting on a smile. A women's summit? Outwardly it talks gender equality, but domestically the chained woman has not been unshackled. Peng Liyuan, as a UN special envoy, has not spoken for 3 years. This event comes down to who can act better. So this wasn't a women's summit, but a revelation of power. She showed up to hold the line, Peng smiled to steady the ranks, and the real question: how long can he hold on? Xi Jinping appears with Peng Liyuan at the Women's Summit. CCP leader Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan attended the opening ceremony of the Global Women's Summit in Beijing on October 13 and delivered a keynote speech. This was his first public appearance in nearly 2 months. Director of the General Office Kai Chi, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Beijing Party Secretary Yin Li, Writers Association Chair Tai Ning, and former All-China Women's Federation Chair Shen Yue were among those present. The current ACWF Chair Shen Yiqin presided over the opening. This is the third time Xi Jinping and Peng Liyuan have personally attended the Global Women's Summit. The Global Leaders Meeting on Women is essentially an extension of the UN World Conference on Women. Since 1975 it has convened every 5 years, focusing on women and gender equality. At the Fourth World Conference on Women held in Beijing in 1995, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action was adopted. The platform set a global policy blueprint for women's causes, incorporating gender equality, women's rights, education, health, and poverty reduction into the international development agenda. Since then, the UN system has regularly held commemorative and review meetings to examine countries' progress in implementing the Beijing Platform for Action. Since taking office, Xi Jinping has participated in each Global Women's Summit. In 2015, she flew to UN headquarters in New York to attend the Global Women's Summit, delivering a speech announcing that the PRC would promote 100 women and children health projects and 100 happy campus projects over the next 5 years, while inviting 30,000 women from developing countries to China for training. Peng Liyuan accompanied him low-key, did not speak, and only participated in receptions and group photos. In 2020, due to the pandemic, the meeting was held online. She delivered remarks by video, reiterating the importance of gender equality. Peng also made a brief appearance, mentioning that girls' education must not be left behind, in a very official tone. This is the third time. In his remarks, she announced that China would contribute an additional $10 million to UN Women over the next 5 years, and provide $100 million from the Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund to support projects for women and children. He also proposed supporting 1,000 livelihood projects, inviting 50,000 women to China for exchanges and training, and establishing a Global Women's Capacity Building Center. At noon that day, Xi and Peng hosted a welcome banquet for international guests. Against the backdrop of China's ongoing economic downturn, strained local finances, and employment difficulties, Xi's remarks drew a wave of online mockery, another money shower. Can you invite the chained woman? The gap between stage and reality, from half the sky to the chained woman. A stark contrast emerged between statements inside the summit and the reality outside. First, the shocking incidents of trafficking in women and children in the PRC. In January 2022, the chained woman case in Fengxian, Suzhou, Jiangsu, came to light. A woman was found with a chain around her neck, subjected to long-term illegal confinement, and having borne 8 children. It sparked a nationwide public outcry and shocked the world. With continued coverage by the New York Times, BBC, CNN, German media, and others, the case has become emblematic in international discourse of China's overlapping problems of trafficking, illegal detention, and governance failures. However, Peng Liyuan has never uttered a word about this case, neither to the domestic public nor via her capacity as a special envoy for international organizations. She has not voiced concern for the victims' plight nor advocated institutional reforms in any form. After she took office, in 2014 Peng Liyuan was appointed UNESCO Special Envoy for the advancement of girls' and women's education. The position's main task is to champion girls' and women's right to education and promote equal opportunities, seen as a female image calling card for the CCP on the international stage. She has delivered speeches on education, cultural exchange, and gender equality at various international venues and emphasized women's role in development at events such as the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. Peng's silence on the chained woman case highlights the chasm between the CCP's official feminism and actual women's rights. When the state uses women's education and gender equality as themes in its diplomatic messaging, the representative charged with advocating those issues remains silent on the most shocking female tragedy at home, making the entire system's image all the more ironic. Me Too constrained, from campuses to newsrooms, silencing doesn't exist only at the societal level. This contradiction is not limited to the chained woman case. In recent years, China's Me Too movement has faced severe suppression. In 2018, a campaign by female university students exposing advisor misconduct kicked off China's Me Too wave, quickly spreading to journalism, the arts, and NGOs. But as public attention grew, related accounts and hashtags were massively deleted, and many feminist communities were forced to shut down. In 2021, feminist journalist and activist Huang Shuoqin and labor rights advocate Wang Jianbing were detained by police. Both were charged with inciting subversion of state power, and in June 2024 were sentenced by a Guangzhou court, Huang to 5 years, Wang to 3.5. The verdict drew condemnation from international human rights organizations and multiple governments. Huang had participated in several Me Too investigative reports and was among the earliest journalists to promote public discussion of anti-sexual harassment in China. Their arrests and convictions were seen as a clear warning from authorities against independent women's rights activism. From the chained woman tragedy to constraints on Me Too, the reality starkly mocks the CCP's high-profile proclamations of gender equality on the international stage. And this contrast does not exist only at the societal level. As women fight for basic bodily autonomy and voice, their place within the state power structure is also being quietly compressed. Female absence within the political structure. At the CCP's 20th Party Congress in 2022, none of the 24 members of the new Politburo were women. This was the first complete absence since 1997. Since 1949, only 6 women have ever served on the Politburo, and no woman has ever entered the Politburo Standing Committee. This even drew the attention of the UN Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW. In its 2023 periodic review, the committee singled out the PRC, stating it was deeply concerned by the absence of women in the highest decision-making bodies and recommending the establishment of gender quota systems to promote women's political participation. By international comparison, China's gender gap in politics is likewise prominent. In the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report 2024, China ranked 77th globally on the Political Empowerment Indicator, far below the economy and education subindices. According to the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, women make up about 24% of the National People's Congress, slightly above the global average, but women remain severely underrepresented in local administration and top party posts. Within this structural absence, high-level CCP discourse on women's work increasingly exhibits a familial function tendency. In 2023, Xi Jinping emphasized in a talk with the Women's Federation that women should establish a new era concept of family, playing roles in family harmony and in child rearing and elder care. Some scholars interpret this as rebinding women to family roles to address low fertility and population aging pressures, rather than truly empowering rights. Thus, while Beijing hosts the Global Women's Summit and loudly advocates gender equality, the international community sees another reality. In trafficking and detention cases, women's bodies lack protection. In speech and activism, rights defenders face criminalization, and at the pinnacle of the power structure, women have vanished entirely. These layered realities make the CCP's equality narrative on the international stage look more like a political falsehood, a cosmetic intended to mask reality and curry favor abroad. Xi Jinping's third stroke? His appearance becomes a proof-of-life show. More than the content of Xi's speech at the summit, what drew attention was his physical condition and spirits. From footage aired by official media and videos circulating on social platforms, Xi's expression appeared stiff, his speech clearly slowed, his face puffy, and his complexion dull. After reading the script, he did not flash even the slightest smile. The entire address felt like going through the motions of an assigned task. Many overseas netizens commented that he looked vacant-eyed, heavy-gaited, and, as if barely holding himself up, with others saying, "You can't see the usual forced bravado anymore." Such a state immediately brought to mind recent widespread rumors that Xi suffered another stroke. On October 9, Du Wen, a former legal worker in the Inner Mongolia government, claimed on social media that Xi Jinping had a sudden cerebral stroke and was in critical condition. The next day, English-language blogger Lay's Real Talk said on her show that, beyond Du Wen and subsequent Chinese-language reports, she had a third source confirming she had been hospitalized again due to a stroke. Lay said the tipster is highly reliable and respected by her, with the ultimate source being a vice, state-level official. The message said she had suffered 3 strokes in total, the first during the CCP's third plenum in July 2024. As a result, Zhang Youxia took control of military power and party elders took charge of the political situation. Journalist Gao Jia also said on her program that she had received tips about Xi suffering a stroke. Since 2024, Xi's public schedule has markedly shrunk. Beyond a few internal meetings and meetings with foreign visitors, he has rarely given lengthy public speeches. Some sources further point out that after the third plenum, Xi's power has been gradually redistributed, with documents uploaded and issued under the control of party elders such as Wen Jiabao. In this context, Xi's appearance at the Women's Summit looked even more like an act of proving he exists to the outside world. However, the appearance neither quelled the health rumors nor rebuilt an aura of authority. On the contrary, Xi's weariness on camera only reinforced the external impression that both his health and power are visibly overdrawn. A change at the General Office? The center loosens on the eve of the fourth plenum. Even before Xi's appearance at the Women's Summit, rumors that Kai Chi, director of the CCP Central Committee General Office, might be removed had circulated within and outside the system for days. Initially dismissed as routine personnel gossip, the story's credibility rose rapidly as multiple sources close to the organization department corroborated it. Reportedly, due to long-term overwork and deteriorating health, Kai Chi had suspended parts of his duties during the National Day holiday, effectively sidelined. On the eve of the fourth plenum, Organization Department head Shi Taifeng led a team to Jiangxi to vet candidates for the General Office directorship, widely seen as a clear signal of personnel change. Multiple sources indicate that current Jiangxi Provincial Party Secretary Yin Hong is highly likely to take over as director of the General Office. Yin worked in Shanghai for years, has close ties to Ding Xuexiang, and is regarded as a steady member of the technocrat camp without strong factional color. If he rises, it would suggest the General Office's operating style may shift from the Xi loyalist system centered on political loyalty to a more administrative, bureaucratic management structure. The director of the General Office is among the most power-dense posts in the CCP system, managing the flow of central documents, the top leader's schedule, and secure communications. Those who sit in this seat are historically the closest of confidants. Since joining the Politburo Standing Committee in 2022 and concurrently serving as director of the General Office, Kai Chi has been Xi Jinping's closest, most emblematic core confidant. He oversees the Central Guard Bureau responsible for the top leadership's personal security, supervises the party's propaganda and drafting systems, and led multiple rounds of purges and internal controls after the 20th Party Congress. In recent months, however, his public exposure has plummeted, and document vetting and security briefings in internal meetings have been temporarily shared by General Office Deputy Directors and Ding Xuexiang. This personnel change comes on the eve of the fourth plenum, making the timing especially sensitive. According to information available to the outside world, at least 9 members of the current Central Committee have already been replaced, and several senior officials are undergoing organizational talks. If the general office change is finalized, it would mean the core power plates have begun to loosen and the core's actual control is being reorganized or diluted. Outwardly, she still sits in the top position, but internally, the real center of gravity has ceased to revolve around him.